Rivers. The 81-year-old died Thursday in New York City, a week after she went into cardiac arrest during a routine medical procedure. Fans have left flowers at her Manhattan home and at her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Joan Rivers' funeral is set for Sunday in New York. After her death, her daughter, Melissa Rivers, wrote, quote, "My mother's greatest joy in life was to make people laugh. Although that is difficult to do right now, I know her final wish would be that we return to laughing soon." Well, it might be an understatement to say that Joan Rivers had chutzpah like no other, and she made so many millions of people laugh through the years. Joining us now to discuss her incredible life is Bradley Jacobs, who's the senior editor for Us Weekly. And Bradley, you interviewed Joan for Us Weekly. How was she one-on-one compared to the on-stage persona we've all grown accustomed to?
One-on-one, she was very real. Really what you would expect. Very emotional, very present, really right there. It was a time when she was promoting her new TV show, Joan and Melissa, and she had Melissa Rivers with her as well, and she showed her generosity by saying, you know what, Melissa should tell that story because Melissa is so funny, and she would turn to Melissa and say, Melissa, talk about that. She was very much a Jewish mother type, and well, she was a Jewish mother, and it really showed. The other thing I wanted to say was I've been to Joan's apartment, and she hosted a book party for a friend of mine, and for as raw and coarse as Joan was, and it sort of turned off some people over the years, what she would talk about, she was very elegant and classy, and her home really reflected that. It was all golden chandeliers. My partner said it was like Louis XIV's home, you know, or Versailles. You know,
right.
She had very high taste.
You know, the way she did her comedy, as you mentioned, was very raw, very out in front of your face. Maybe comedians like Lenny Bruce or George Carlin or Richard Pryor were able to have success, but those were males in a very male-dominated genre. How was she able to break through that with that same type of comedy as a female?
She was very pushy. She always said she didn't even really have time to march for feminism. You know, she was just out there doing it herself. It was actually Lenny Bruce who gave her a big break. She was doing a nightclub act one night, bombing, and she said that he wrote her a note saying, you're right and they're wrong. And she said that she kept that note for years and years. She was just very, she was what you saw. You know, she was very pushy, and she wanted to be a comedian. She was funny, and she knew it. She was very confident in herself. She didn't let nights where she blew it with the audience turn her away from her dream, which was to make people laugh.
You know, I'm old enough to remember when she did stand up on a regular basis, when she got her start hosting The Tonight Show, and then, of course, her own show. But there's an entire generation, Brad, who only know her as a fashion critic. What will she be remembered for most? Her most recent career, or what she's done throughout her decades-long in comedy?
I think it's like anyone who's been in show business for 50 years. They're remembered for the breadth of it. You know, I mean, of course, young people know her as the person who trashed people on the runway, or would say of the Queen Elizabeth, dresses by Helen Keller. You know, she always had that great pithy one-liner. But of course, people who are a little older knew her as a talk show host. People before that knew her as a stand-up comedian. Like any actor or any other star, she had a lot of different chapters.
Let me ask you about plastic surgery. It's hard to talk about Joan Rivers without talking about plastic surgery because she embraced it so much and even made fun of herself for all the procedures that she had. I think a lot of people will always remember that aspect of her life.
That was one of the best parts of Joan. She would be like, look at my face. You know, like, look at what I've done. What do you think? I mean, she was very forthright about aging and women in Hollywood and the camera and not wanting to look, you know, like an old lady. And she just, and that was what was so relatable. She was always really one of us. You know, she didn't, there was nothing elite about her. She wasn't part of some society world that is untouchable. She was very much like sitting on the couch like you and me, watching people and saying, like, I don't want to get old, like, so I'm going to do this to my face and I'm going to do up my hair this way, and what do you think? She was just very, like I said, very, very forthright.
And a trailblazer who set the tone for comedians to come behind her, such as Chelsea Handler or even Margaret Cho, who can do that out front, in-your-face comedy and still be well-received. Bradley Jacobs, senior editor for US Weekly. Thanks for coming in this morning.
Thank you.
To have an ounce of her chutzpah.